Today, we're making Thit Nuong, or Vietnamese pork skewers. These grilled pork skewers is one of Vietnam's most popular items and can be commonly found at restaurants, street food stalls, and delis. They're often served with rice plates, vermicelli bowls, in Vietnamese sandwiches, or by themselves as an appetizer. These skewers are so nostalgic for me, and I'm instantly teleported back to my childhood with every bite. They're super easy to put together, and I'll break down how to make it in 3 simple steps. So make sure you like, comment, save, and share this video.
That's so good.
Alright y'all, remember to wash your hands. The first step is prepping our pork. I have about 4 pounds of pork shoulder that I'm going to slice up thinly. The pro tip for making it easier to slice is throwing it in the freezer for a few hours before you're ready to cut. Partially freezing it helps firm up the protein and makes it way easier to slice. And while we're cutting this, we just want to cut the shoulder against the grain to make sure that our pork is as tender as possible. And here's the real pro tip though. Just ask your butcher to slice it up for you. Or buy the pork pre-cut. You can usually find it at any Asian grocery store and it'll be alongside the other hot pot or shabu shabu meats. It might be a little bit more expensive, but you'll save a ton of time. But if you're broke like me and you choose to cut your own pork shoulder, this was about $3.49 a pound. Once we have all the pork cut, we'll move it into a bowl and get it marinated. We'll start by adding minced lemongrass, and I like processing my lemongrass in a food processor and storing it flat in a Ziploc bag. I usually do this in bulk as it freezes really well, and that way I always have minced lemongrass handy. And I don't know about y'all, but mincing lemongrass and garlic is probably my least favorite thing to do in the kitchen. So I try to avoid it as much as possible, but sometimes you just gotta suck it up. So we'll mince up the shallot and we'll get that into the bowl. Then we'll add some minced garlic. And I have about 4 tablespoons of oyster sauce. And a couple tablespoons of soy sauce, a splash of fish sauce. Then for some sweetness to balance out all the umami notes, we're gonna add in honey. I also usually like to add in brown sugar as it adds a bit more depth to the flavor profile, but I ran out, so we're just using honey today, and that's a-okay too. Then we'll add in some oil, sesame seeds, salt and pepper. We're gonna get our hands dirty and give that a good mix. And there's something so visceral about touching food for me, but feel free to use tongs or wear a glove if your hands are shy. If you're like me though, just make sure you wash your hands thoroughly and often. Once our pork shoulder is all mixed up, we're gonna let this vibe out in the fridge. Overnight is best if you have time, but an hour is okay too. When your pork is done marinating, we'll move on to step 2, which is getting it all onto the skewers. And before we do that, we'll want to soak our skewers in some water, as this will help it from burning too quickly on the grill. We're going to take pieces of our pork and just skewer it, and I'm not really sure what to call the technique, but you'll just stab the pork in multiple places with the skewer to make sure that it's firmly secured. And if you like this recipe and you want to learn how to make more of your favorite Vietnamese and Asian dishes, make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications to stay up to date on all my latest posts. I'll show you a couple different angles of me getting it done, but basically it should look like this when it's all stacked up with no loose bits dangling. After an eternity later, we have all of our skewers put together, and then it's time to grill. Step 3 is grilling them and enjoying. I have my grill on its medium setting, and we're just gonna toss a few of these on without crowding the grill. I don't want these to cook too quickly, as the sugar content is high, so we don't want the sugars to caramelize and burn before the pork is cooked through. On my grill, these take about 7 to 8 minutes on each side, and right before they're done, I'll crank up the heat to high to make sure that we get some really nice color on the skewers. Now, every grill is different, so you'll want to make sure that you cook these up to a safe internal temp. For pork, that's 145, but for these skewers in particular, I usually cook these up to about 175 internal temp. We'll get these on a plate, we'll garnish with some sesame seeds, and just like that, you've made your own Thit Nuong at home in 3 easy steps. These skewers are perfect for entertaining, they're so tasty, the lemongrass adds an incredible fragrance to the pork, and you're gonna wanna have them all the time. As always, the full recipe and measurements is on my blog at feedthepudge.com.
That's so good.
At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that these skewers really take me back to my childhood, and I have some really fond memories of eating these. Now, I don't consider myself religious anymore, but I was raised in a Catholic household, and every summer, my church would host a festival called Hội Chợ Hè, where different church groups and local organizations would set up vendor stalls, selling knickknacks, host small carnival games, and of course, sell food. This festival was something that I looked forward to every single year. It would take place over the course of 3 days between Friday and Sunday, and my family would go for the entire day on all 3 days. Now, my parents volunteered with their own groups, and in the morning they would give me $10 or $20 to spend on whatever I wanted. I'd spend a little bit on games, a little bit on beverages to stay cool, but the one thing I always got were these Thit Nuong skewers. They were grilled and charred to perfection, and if I had the money then, I could probably eat a dozen of these in a sitting. As an adult now, every time I take a bite of these grilled pork skewers, it takes me back to a much more innocent time in my life, when I didn't have any real responsibilities or stresses. And whether you grew up eating these pork skewers or not, I hope that when you eat this, it also takes you back and reminds you of some cherished childhood memories. Or it helps you create a brand new memory that you can share with your friends and family. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy.